Good morning. I just figured that I'm not centre. There you go. I'm not centre now. There you go. Good morning. Welcome to Coffee Morning. I'm going to describe that now. That's my new name. So for any evening podcast I do, if people can put in the comments of what I should name it, be free. Because I really ain't got a clue. I'm struggling. Anyway, I am joined by the wonderful Maisie Cass for the very first time. So all I've got to say is welcome.
Oh, thank you. It's great to be here. And coffee morning. Great.
Coffee. Hey, we all need coffee, especially when we're dealing with today's society, today's struggles.
Yeah. Now, where would you be without coffee?
I don't know.
It doesn't bear thinking about, does it?
I feel like if I haven't had caffeine, I don't think I've got hair. I'm only 30 as well. So, obviously this is your first time. We'll throw some quick fire questions to calm nerves down. So I'm going to say, like you've already answered one about the water. So I'm going to say cats or dogs?
Ooh, I have one of each, but I am a cat person.
My partner will love you then. Yeah, we've got 9.
Wow.
I don't like them.
Oh.
I'm going to say, I don't know. Favourite type of tree?
I am very much a eucalyptus tree person. In a past life, I was a wedding cake designer. So eucalyptus featured highly on a lot of my designs.
Brilliant. Yes. So another one is summer or winter?
Summer, unless it snows a lot, and I'm very much a snow kind of girl, so I love winter and snow, but otherwise summer.
Yeah, brilliant. And the last one I'm going to say, favourite type of herb spice?
Cajun. I like Cajun spice.
Oh yeah.
Sprinkle that on everything.
Oh, my daughter just puts tomato sauce on literally anything. Anything, literally, it doesn't matter what it is, she'll do it. No. Anyway, so for all the viewers, please tell me who you are, when you're tuning in, where you're from, and let's hear your story and end this stigma together. So, Maisie, just tell us a little bit about who you are. A little bit of a background.
So, as you've already introduced me, I'm Maisie Cass. I am one of the co-founders of the Business of Autism. The Business of Autism was set up between me and my 2 sisters. So there's 3 co-founders. I am the middle one. I'm also the tallest of the 3 of us. So they're both a lot smaller than I am. We set the business up because the youngest of the 3 of us, Lucy, was diagnosed with what was then Asperger's 20 years ago. And both myself and our older sister Alice have a lot of background, knowledge and experience with working and supporting autistic children and adults. And we felt that we could actually put all of this knowledge that we've got to some really good use. So we sat down and had a chat a couple of years ago now and realised that there was a huge issue with unemployment rates for autistic adults, particularly those that don't have a learning disability. And we knew that something had to be done about this. And obviously watching Lucy grow up with a diagnosis, watching her go through her schooling, college, university, and then through jobs as well, we saw the good, the bad, and the ugly of what it's like to be autistic in a very neurotypical world, a world that just isn't open and accessible enough to everyone. So that's what we're doing at the moment, is challenging businesses to do and be better.
Absolutely. I believe, it should change in workplace, but I believe it all should start in the education as well. Because obviously I fell through the cracks. My son, who's at school at the minute, he's fallen through the cracks because there's just lack of training, lack of understanding.
Yeah. there is still so many misconceptions around what being autistic is. There are still so many people who assume that if you're autistic, then you're non-verbal, or you are going to need 24/7 care and support, that you're not going to be able to make friends or be in relationships, or that you're odd or awkward. And it's such a shame that these misconceptions still exist and these stereotypes still exist. And you're absolutely right. We need to address that from a very early age in education, to realise that it's a very different story.
Yeah. Hang on a minute. Door's just gone. I won't be long.
You're leaving me. I just hope you're going to come back.
Oh my God. Oh, sorry about that. An idiot at the door. It happens though, doesn't it?
It does.
Try and sell us things.
Always when you're on camera.
Oh yeah, it always does, doesn't it? I have actually noticed that when we're busy, either our phones go off a lot or someone knocks at the door. It's like, get us when we're not busy. Anyway, apologies to all the viewers for that, and apologies to you, Maisie. So, okay. But yeah, it comes down to my son, because he's obviously on the high spectrum, and obviously he was diagnosed just 4 years ago. But
how old is he?
He's 9.
Oh, okay.
He's 9 years old.
Wow.
See, the paediatrician, I've got a bit of a dilemma with her. Well, a bit more of a dispute, because she wanted to diagnose him with autism when he was 7. But obviously, I thought to make it early. Yes.
Can I have something from there?
Yeah, go on then. Oh, that's my daughter. She's off school as well. See, madhouse here. Madhouse, and we've only got 2 kids. So,
It's going to become a more bad house when Katie comes.
Shut the door.
Why?
Thank you. Right, but yeah, he's already figured out what he wants to be when he grows up. He wants to be an architect.
Oh wow! Oh, that's really good. That's fantastic.
Yeah, he wants to be an architect, and he also wants to obviously follow what we do as well, like talk about mental health, become a YouTuber himself. He actually already wants to build his own games as well. So he's got a really bright future ahead of him.
Yeah.
He really does. And it actually all starts because his talent is numbers. He's brilliant at numbers, because I actually introduced him to them when he was only 3 years old.
Gosh.
And so obviously he was in reception age, and he could do up to the 13 times tables in reception.
Wow.
Because I introduced him to numbers through a snakes and ladders grid.
See, learning through play.
Exactly. But we have had our disputes with the school education, because he's learning like equations, because he can do algebra, he can do fractions. He's doing decimals at the minute, and we had a bit of dispute with school because his class teacher asked him a question saying, what's bigger, Lucas, 4.8 or 4.89? So obviously he worked it out, he used his method instead of the school's method, and he said, that's the 4.89. So the teacher was like, no, it's not, it's 4.8. Probably trying to confuse him. So obviously he kicked off about it, and he just was not happy.
No, and we're finding a similar thing where the curriculum which is used today is still very much a standardized curriculum, and doesn't allow for the kind of the differentiation between learning styles as much as it could. So yeah, it's definitely stuff that could do with being addressed.
Absolutely, yeah, and this is what I'm fighting for. There's about 30 teachers, maybe even more, in the school, but only one will talk to me, and that's the head teacher,
Mm.
because I'm always addressing things of where they're faulting.
I think part of the issue, and we see this day in, day out when we're speaking to particularly large corporate organisations, is that actually there's still a fear around what autism is.
Yes.
Because they haven't got the education or the knowledge in terms, and because autism changes so much sort of year in, year out, there is sort of new information coming through as to what it means to be autistic and how the autistic brain develops. And what people don't understand, they fear. And when they fear, they'll either fight it or they'll run away from it.
Yeah.
So you tend to find that people don't want to get into conversations about autism or autistic individuals because they don't know what they're talking about. So this is one of the big things that we're trying to address, is that actually if we could just get the knowledge out there for what it is like in the real world to be autistic, not just for a certain group of people, then hopefully we can start to remove that fear and those barriers, and then conversation should flow a lot better, hopefully.
Exactly. So another one is, what's the difference between, because I know they connect, between autism itself and ODD. Now, for the viewers, ODD stands for oppositional defiant disorder.
Mm.
Yeah.
So they both fall under the category of being neurodiverse in terms of the way the brain processes information. But for autism specifically, you are looking at challenges within 3 certain areas, which are social interaction. So it might be understanding others' behaviours, understanding what their emotions are, or not recognising other people's behaviours or emotions. Social communication, so that could be not necessarily fully understanding metaphors. Thank you. Or sarcasm, so being much more literal in the way they think. Yeah. And also a sensory issue, sensory processing is affected. So you tend to find that people who are autistic can be very sensitive or undersensitive, so hyper or hyposensitive to all the information around them, the way they process it, and then the way it affects them internally and externally. So even though they fall under a neurodiverse condition, autism is still very separate on its own, whereas ODD, so your opposition defiance disorder, would come in with like your dyslexia, dyspraxia, ADHD, ADD.
Yeah, because obviously the paediatrician with Lucas, because I've already stated that we all know autistic, not just autistic kids, but autistic people in general, they've got that defiant behaviour within them. But the paediatrician actually did state that he's showing signs of ODD as well. Mm. So I'm in an ongoing dispute with the paediatrician anyway, because I've said, so why can't you assess him for that? She's refusing to do that. She's actually refusing, which obviously I'm actually putting a complaint for child negligence because of that. So because I want my kids assessed for everything, so whatever's can be spotted, get them assessed for it, because I was misdiagnosed growing up myself, so I don't want my kids being the exact same. So she turned around and said to me over the phone, if he's to be diagnosed with ODD, we have to remove the autism from his medical notes.
No, they should. I'm not a doctor. I'm not a psychologist or a clinician. But my understanding is that the two can run side by side.
Exactly, and and when I contacted Health Watch about that, they even said this is bizarre to what the paediatrician's stating, and they found the recording of that call as well, and they said she's wrong to say that. So why can't she just coexist in it? Yeah, side by side. So this is what we're going to try and push for.
But that again, just the misdiagnosis side of things is a huge challenge for autistics, particularly obviously that I'm sure you're aware that the statistics are that more men and boys are currently diagnosed than women and girls with autism. I think the current ratio is about 3 to 1. But one of the big contributors that could be affecting this and actually skewing that ratio is the fact that females are sometimes misdiagnosed with depression or anxiety.
Yeah.
Because they're so good at masking.
Yeah.
And therefore, because again, the GPs don't always have enough knowledge around the condition, they don't spot that it could be something like autism, and provide support in that route. And instead, they'll then prescribe medication instead to treat mental health issues. So
sorry on that.
Yeah, oh yeah, that's a whole other podcast. But the diagnosis at the moment, or the amount of people going undiagnosed, again because they don't have the information, or perhaps they've spoken to someone who said no, it's not that. And then you get onto the challenge of the waiting lists. And whether you go down the sort of the main route, where it's a very lengthy process, or whether you start to look into the private options, which can be a very costly process, and it's really challenging.
Yeah, see, I've come across potential clients, or if not clients, that are myself, because obviously I'm qualified to coach people myself with mental health, and they've actually approached the NHS and they've been told it's up to a year before they're actually seen. So I'm like, come to me then, I can help. So they came to me, spoke to me for about 20 minutes up to an hour, and they feel better.
Yeah,
that's what it is. That's what it is.
Yeah, it's just having access to other professionals who know what they're talking about.
Exactly. But speaking of the girls, when it comes to autism, my daughter, well, one of my daughters who lives with me, she's obviously in the process of being diagnosed with a social communication delay, which the speech therapist has actually said this can be linked to autism. But when I brought that up with the paediatrician, they went, it's not necessarily linked to autism. So it's like, why are you challenging what another professional's saying?
And again, it just comes down to the fact that there is so much misinformation out there, and that the health service is so under so much pressure.
They are.
That they are expected to be jack of all trades, essentially. And again, that's one of the reasons why we decided that we would focus on autism as a business, because it still needs that expertise going forwards, until the day comes when we no longer need Autism Awareness Month or day or week, or
every day should be that. Every day.
It got to May 1st and I was like, right, we don't need to talk about autism anymore. The month is done. I was like, no, we need to talk about autism every single day.
Same with mental health. Like, I did a podcast, I think it was about 2 or 3 days ago, and it's Maternal Mental Health Week. Well, that is this week. And so I went on Google during the podcast thinking, if there's a maternal, then there should be a paternal. There's nothing.
No.
There's nothing.
No. So it's the mental health side of how that affects autism. Again, this past 12 months, this pandemic has really impacted on that. I mean, I think there was some studies done where they said that during the pandemic, 76% of autistic adults actually reached out for mental health support. And they were saying that even though 14% of autistic adults felt that there were mental health services within their area, 82% of those adults actually felt that it took far too long to get the support in place. And we know that mental health isn't something that can be put to one side and ignored. And so I'll deal with that in 6 months. It's fine. It doesn't work like that, because it grows and it grows, and it escalates. And obviously for an autistic individual, where anxiety levels can rise anyway, this just contributes to lowering their level of mental health. And the rates of self-harm have gone up
Oh,
and,
yeah.
and controlling behaviours such as either eating too much or not eating enough.
Bulimia, yeah.
When the pandemic hit, and obviously all of a sudden the world became a very uncertain place to be, where everything you knew, all the routines you had in place are suddenly taken away from you overnight. There are a lot of autistic adults that I've spoken to who said that that just caused chaos with their levels of anxiety and mental health. So it's been really, and I mean, these are only estimated figures. It could be a lot worse than that. And now it's just a case of really trying to work hard to remedy all of that, and to recognize the fact that actually, as you're doing now, that mental health is so important.
Yeah.
Because without good mental health, we don't have anything.
Exactly. Well, I came across figures, this was a few weeks back now, maybe a couple of months back, and I came across some figures that when it comes to autism and the education, 26% of kids with autism are being excluded from school over the 4% that don't have autism.
Yeah. But again, the schools haven't necessarily been given the knowledge or the resources. I used to work for adult social services for an autism team, which was fantastic. It was absolutely amazing that the council had recognised that there was a really high percentage of autistic adults out there that didn't come under the mental health support services. They weren't learning disabled, so they didn't come under the learning disability team. They were bright, articulate adults who still needed support in other areas like social interaction, employment.
Yeah.
And one of the hardest things about that job was you could go in and you could speak to these individuals and their families, and they would be so pleased and relieved that they were speaking to people who understood. And I could sit there and go, yes, well, actually, I know that this kind of support and these resources would really help you. But then you'd have to take a step back and go, but they're not actually available, or they're oversubscribed, or the funding's not there. And it's like you can reach out and say to people, I get it. I can see what would make a real difference. But then you pull it all back and go, but you can't have it. And that's the same with employment. You can turn around and talk to autistic adults who are job hunting, and they will come to us regularly and say, can you help us? And we'll be there going, well, looking at what you've done, your knowledge, your experience, it's incredible. And then you turn around and go, but there isn't a business who will understand you. Yeah. I mean, there are business. This is changing. It's amazing. There are some huge corporations out there who are doing absolutely incredible things to change this status quo in the working world, to make sure that their businesses are fully accessible for the whole neurodiverse community. So that's me with my neurotypical brain and an autistic brain and someone who's got ADHD, OCD, anybody. So it is changing, but there's still so much work to be done. And obviously that's one of the things that we are really sort of pushing for, is that these changes come about almost so that it's mandatory. Why is it not mandatory for businesses to be fully accessible to everybody?
There's a lot of bullying out there when it comes to autism, not just autism, but other disabilities as well. But it just goes down to lack of understanding and lack of training.
I mean, we often get businesses say to us, how do we get someone to disclose the fact that they're autistic on their application form? Because it's not a legal requirement. No. Because you can't. You're not allowed to. And the one thing that we keep trying to say to these businesses is make sure that candidate who wants to work for your business, make sure that they know that they don't need to tell you that they're autistic, because they are coming into an environment which will support their needs anyway.
Exactly. I just think the reason, because obviously I know that autism and anxiety go hand in hand, but I feel like people don't disclose that they're autistic to potential employers, because those employers know that if they have to make special requirements, special changes, it's going to cost that business money, and they don't want to lose that money.
So interestingly, a study came out a few years back that said that only 5 out of 20 employers felt comfortable with recruiting an autistic employee. And the thing that really bothers me the most about this is the fact that when we talk about reasonable adjustments within a workplace, whether it's needing ear defenders, whether it's needing a specific desk so you always know where you're going to be sitting, whether that's by the window, whether it's in a quiet area, it comes across as though these adjustments that you are asking for are because as an employee you're flawed in some way.
Yeah.
But that's not the case. I mean, how many people out there, whether they're autistic or not, want to sit and work in what is the equivalent of Grand Central Station, where it's busy and noisy and you're not quite sure which desk you're going to be sitting at next time? Who wants that? No. So actually, by offering these employee preference sheets, so before an employee even takes the role, find out how they work best, regardless of whether they're autistic or not. What kind of environment do they prefer to work in? Some people are really happy down in Starbucks or a local coffee house, where actually they have got the hustle and bustle and they can sit and they can focus and they can zone everything out. And for that 1% of autistic employees, if you look at putting an environment in place which is friendly to everyone, to your neurodiverse team, then even though you perhaps might be putting them in place initially for that 1%, it will have a huge impact on the whole of your team. The studies that have been absolutely fantastic are so some of these bigger corporations who have done autism at work initiatives have said that autistic employees can be up to 40% faster at problem solving than their non-autistic counterparts. That productivity levels can go up by 140% within a team that is inclusive to autistic employees. And actually, if you've got a diverse team, that your revenue can go up as much as 140% as well.
Wow.
So some of these statistics that are coming out are absolutely fantastic, and they all support the fact that as businesses and in employment, to be a business of the future, to be a business which thrives and is better than its competitors, it has to welcome this neurodiverse working team. But to do that, it has to support their way they work best. And I think the pandemic's shown us that all of a sudden everyone started working from home. And for some people, it was amazing. They were like, brilliant, no commute, no hour into London on the train, no paying for that. I'm in my own world. I'm surrounded by all my creature comforts. And then there's me who's there going, no, I've got children running around. I like going to an office. And I think the pandemic, although it's been awful in so many ways, has actually shown us so many positive things that can come out of it. Flexibility, the way we communicate with each other, opportunities that we can give one another as well. So it's, the reasonable adjustment side of things shouldn't now just be for autistics. It should be common practice. It should be standard practice within a work environment, that people are supported in the way that they work best, because then they're more productive, healthier. Mental health is supported then.
Exactly.
There was a company that we spoke to last year who said that a lot of these big companies now offer like counselling sessions or kind of mental health wellbeing check-ins, but they're normally an opt-in option, and there's not a high take-up. So this one company did it the other way around, and they didn't opt out, and not one single employee opted out. So they all went. Their mental wellbeing improved, their productivity improved, and more importantly, their retention improved. So there were less sick days.
Brilliant.
So there's so much that can be done, and yet it's so important for businesses to do it if they want to go forwards into the future.
Exactly. So back to you and your sisters. What was your reaction to when you found out Lucy had autism?
I don't remember initially. I must have been about 12.
Okay.
I don't think I knew enough about it. I knew Lucy. I knew the things she liked and disliked. I knew the fact that she hated going shopping to the supermarket because she did not like the lighting one bit. The lighting upset her so much. But I think because we grew up with it and because my parents were so positive and supportive about it, it was normal. There was no, oh, Lucy's got Asperger's. It was just, Lucy's my sister.
Yeah.
So I got frustrated, and it would upset me when I would see her finding things challenging, or when people didn't understand the fact that she might take a little bit longer to get ready for PE at 8 years old, and she'd get into trouble for that. So that would really frustrate me and upset me. So I think perhaps both Alice and I have been quite protective over her. But I tell you what, she's a fiercely independent woman. Making waves in the corporate world. She's fantastic. So yeah, I think there wasn't necessarily a moment of, oh my goodness, she's been diagnosed. It was just, oh well, this is Lucy. This is just who she is. It is. It's just her personality, and she's just the most wonderful human being. She's kind and thoughtful and articulate and beautiful and clever. So yes, very proud of her.
Are you not just saying those nice things because she may see this?
I want her to babysit in 2 weeks, so I've got to be nice.
Yeah.
No, I'm not. She's absolutely incredible. She's an inspiration. She's an absolute inspiration. So yeah.
Fantastic. So we've covered why workplace and schools need to talk about autism even more. I feel like in schools, when it comes to, because obviously it's all about labels, and I hate labels. I hate them. When it comes to this autism, like National Autistic Week, maybe we should actually do things about autism, whether it's virtually, whether it's in person. Get someone that's got autism to come into the school and talk to the kids about it. Do a lesson on autism. I remember in my kids' old school, the head teacher, when she weren't nice, she got this book, and it was all about autism. And he was only in like year 2 at the time. And she actually got that book. Like, obviously, we read it first. Like, Lucas brought it home. We read it. And we sent it back a few days later. Then that same book went not just around the class, but it actually went around the school, from reception to year 6. And all the teachers read it just to get that understanding of autism. But it never worked. We had to bring him out because he's getting bullied by the teachers.
Oh, that's not good.
No. Oh, well.
But no, I completely agree that there isn't enough emphasis or room in the curriculum. I think teachers are under so much pressure, particularly with everything that's happened over the past 12 months, to get students back up to where the government expect them to be for their ages, for their levels, that there just isn't enough room at the moment to make allowances for educating the students. And that's not down to the schools or the teachers necessarily. I think that's a much bigger issue, which definitely needs addressing more, to put more emphasis on the education side of it.
Exactly. Now, I know my kids are learning more about mental health, because obviously when I was 8 and 9 years old, probably you're the same, I didn't believe mental health actually existed. And until 4 or 5 years ago, I didn't even believe autism. I never even come across autism before. So
you come across the word, it's almost such a shame that it's called mental health, because even talking about our well-being and how we are inside, sort of psychologically, the term mental has so many negative connotations and associations with it now. And again, that is definitely something that, along with autism education, if it could be taught to children from a very young age, that what mental health is, and actually talking about mental health is a really positive thing, and what good mental health looks like, Again, maybe it would start to remove some of the barriers and hopefully some of the challenges for people actually having good mental health.
Exactly. Now, I actually asked my son the other week because we all know what mental health is, but what does it actually mean to us? And I asked him that, and he said, well, it can be either be your best friend or it can be your worst enemy.
Oh, that's such a great way of putting it.
Exactly.
I might have to take that and write that down. That's such a lovely way of putting it.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, I know I'm going to repeat myself here on my podcast, but I really don't care because this is what it means to me. This was a few months back. I actually was on a Zoom call with someone from Australia, and he straight away asked me, "What does mental health mean to you?" And I was answering all these different ways, but he's like, "No, that's what it is. But what does it mean to you?" It took me 2 hours to actually answer that. 2 hours. And obviously, it's the way we think. It's our mindset that controls the way we think, act, and behave. That's what it is. That's what it means to me.
Yeah, very much so.
Yeah, absolutely. So, we've all got our challenges. You've overcome yours, which I'm proud. Lucy's probably done the exact same. So, where do you see this business, what you've got, where do you see it in the next 12 months' time?
In the next 12 months, we will be working with some very, very big businesses to run autism at work initiatives within their organisations to make sure that we start to really drive down unemployment rates and create opportunities for autistic employees, not just as a bit of a gimmick, but as a long-term prospects. And then hopefully, well, no, not even hopefully, but that will then start to influence other businesses to follow suit as well.
Yeah,
so,
absolutely. And if there's anywhere I can help, I'm here.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, because this one is, it's all about ending this stigma and get people talking. Get them to stand up and start saying, enough's enough. We need to talk.
Yeah. Same with mental health. So I was going to say, same with mental health. Just again, addressing that stigma within organisations that if you go as a potential employee, as a candidate for a job, and you have anywhere on your application that you have perhaps need extra support around your mental health, it scares people because they don't know how to support that.
No, absolutely. So, yeah, I was just about to say, we was born with a voice box, so why should we be silenced about using it?
We've just got to use it wisely.
So why do I use it bluntly then?
No, blunt. There's nothing wrong with blunt. Blunt is great. It doesn't mean you're not wise just because it's blunt at all. A lot of people that we speak to really appreciate bluntness. They don't want waffle. They don't want fancy and fluffy. They want straight down the line blunt.
Yeah, straight to the point. That's it.
I'm not very good at that. I like to be fluffy.
Why?
I don't know. I don't know. My own insecurities, I suppose. I don't know. I need to learn to be more direct and more blunt.
Exactly. So, you've answered where it is. So, where do you actually see? I just keep getting notifications popping through. It's like, go away. I don't like that. So, you've answered where the business will be in 12 months' time, but where's Maisie going to be in 12 months' time?
Ooh. Ideally, I want to be sat around a table up at Parliament level, changing policy. I want to influence and impact the policy the policies, so the autism strategy, could be the Mental Health Act, the white paper, all these strategies and policies that are going forwards to make them more favourable.
Yeah.
For so.
To end the stigma and to end all this dispute we've got, do you think autism should be removed from the Mental Health Act?
Ooh. I don't know.
Okay.
I don't know. I can't answer either way on that. I think there are pros and cons of each side of that argument. And I'm very much going to sit on the fence with this one.
Okay.
I suppose mainly because I don't know the Mental Health Act well enough.
Okay.
No, to know
teach
how
you.
autism, thank you. To know how autism as a condition could sit within it, so that it has a positive effect rather than a detrimental one. And obviously that's why there's a lot of work going on around it at the moment to make it more favourable. Because obviously autism isn't a mental health condition.
No, it's not.
But it can be very much intertwined because
Exactly.
of the challenges that autistics face.
Yeah.
So whether that should then feed into the Mental Health Act or whether it should be taken out, I think is a very, very complex discussion.
Oh yeah, it is. I've just had the comment. You are very blunt, Adam. I'm like, yeah.
Well, that's all right. It's fine.
You're new to this, so they probably won't know who you are. Oh, but yeah. So all I've got to say is thank you for coming on.
Oh, it's been an absolute pleasure. It really has.
Yeah. So are you nervous now? Yes. Why?
I don't know. No, I'm not. It's been lovely. It's been so lovely to sit and talk to you. It really has. It's so interesting. I love talking to people. I love hearing their points of view. I love hearing about their experiences and then any knowledge that I can take away from that can only make me better and do my job better as well. So.
Yeah, well, you're nicking a statement off me, so
yeah, I am.
I'm going to see it on your LinkedIn profile probably next hour. So, right. Thank you for everyone tuning in. Thank you to you, Maisie. You've been brilliant, all of you. And all I've got to say is, please join me tonight when I'm going to be joined by Brian Clare. We're actually going to talk about social services.
Oh, are you? Oh, I'll have to tune in for that. That will be interesting.
Yeah. I've got nothing positive to say about them. Nothing.
Do you know what? That's such a shame. And I completely understand why you might feel that way. But I think that's such a shame because having them's a great thing.
Yeah,
there's a discussion that is definitely for tonight. So I'll be really interested to listen to that and see his points of view on it all.
Yeah. Personal preference, because I've got a daughter that's being abused in the care system and they're not doing nothing about it. So yeah. Anyway, that's for another discussion. So yeah, please join me live at 8:00 tonight. So yes. That's all I've got to say. Is there anything else you want to say, Maisie?
No, that's all. Thank you very much. Just have a lovely weekend. I hope it's sunny where you are. It's finally sunny where I am. No hailstones today.
It's beautiful here. I've actually got clothes online, but probably give it about half an hour and it'll stop peeing it down.
Oh, I'm going to blame it on you if it rains then.
Oh, it's all right. I always get the blame. All right.
Well, have a lovely weekend.
Cheerio.
Bye.